There is an aura some people carry, one that cannot be copied, one that cannot be disguised. It is not the kind of presence that demands attention with noise or force. It is quieter, subtler, but far more powerful. Once you have felt it, you never forget it. Carl Jung believed that in the endless sea of human personalities, a few rare souls walk among us who are tuned to something beyond the surface. Their presence feels different because it is different. It is not performance. It is not a skill learned through effort. It is a vibration, an openness, a rare sensitivity that pulls from the deepest layers of human existence. These are the true empaths. They are not simply kind-hearted. They are not just good listeners. What radiates from them is more than warmth. It is an energy field, an invisible resonance that bends the atmosphere around them. People notice without understanding why. They feel lighter, safer, more open. They feel as though someone has stepped into their hidden world without judgment, and for a moment, the burden of being human feels a little less heavy. Imagine what this means for daily life. An empath walks into a crowded room. To others, it is simply noise and faces. But to the empath, every unspoken pain hums in the air. The man at the corner table hiding heartbreak. The woman smiling too brightly to mask her loneliness. The child sensing tension at home. The empath does not look harder. They do not guess. They feel. And once felt, it cannot be unseen. This is what Jung connected to the collective unconscious. Most people walk through life inside their own narrow bubble, blind to the emotional rivers flowing around them. But the empath stands open to those rivers, and what passes through others like static passes through them like lightning. They are porous to the unseen. They live half in their own soul, and half in the souls of everyone they meet. This is why their aura feels rare. It is not only their own energy shining through. It is a living weave of many lives at once. You sense it because you are not only meeting them, you are meeting fragments of everyone they carry within. Spend 5 minutes in their presence, and you begin to feel the difference. People confess things they never planned to share. Secrets spill without effort. Strangers walk away lighter, not knowing why. Children cling. Animals feel calm. Even the most closed-off individuals lower their guard without realizing it. The empath does not demand trust. Their aura creates it. Lies feel heavy in their presence. Truth feels lighter. But this rare field comes at a cost. Because the empath cannot choose what enters. They feel joy, yes, but they also feel despair. They absorb love, but also rage. They carry grief that does not belong to them. They are mirrors that cannot turn away. This is why empaths often wake up tired. Why they weep without clear cause. Why they retreat into solitude to breathe again. The world mistakes this for weakness, but Jung saw it differently. He believed their exhaustion was the natural weight of carrying more than one soul at a time. Their aura glows precisely because it is charged with more than their own life. The irony is that the empath rarely sees this in themselves. To them, it feels normal. They believe everyone feels this much, until life shows them otherwise. And because it feels ordinary to them, they also believe they are fragile. Too soft. Too easily broken. What they do not realize is that the very thing they see as weakness is the same thing others remember them for years later. Their aura deepens not only through joy but through suffering. Every heartbreak thickens its resonance. Every betrayal, every grief, every wound becomes fuel for a presence that others feel more strongly. Jung saw this paradox clearly. Pain did not dim the aura of the empath, it expanded it. They become heavier, richer, more unforgettable as they walk through trials. This is why even when an empath is silent, the room shifts. Even when they try to hide, their aura cannot be hidden. They do not seek to stand out, but they cannot help it. Their openness leaves a mark everywhere they go. The world often misreads this. Some are drawn with gratitude. They feel healed in their orbit. But others are drawn with hunger, seeking to consume what is not theirs to take. The empath learns this the hard way. Because the same light that offers safety can also attract shadows. The aura that comforts also exposes. And while the empath can heal, they can also be drained by those who come not to share but to take. Still, despite all of this, their aura cannot be destroyed. It can be dimmed, yes. It can be wounded, yes. But it never truly dies. Because it is not only theirs. It belongs to the collective they carry within. And so the empath continues forward, often unaware of their rarity, yet leaving traces everywhere they go. Traces in memory. Traces in feeling. They awaken something that cannot be explained yet cannot be denied. In a world where most people are numb, their aura is the quiet fire that reminds us what it means to feel alive. That is the rare aura only true empaths carry. If the aura of the true empath feels like a blessing, it is also a trial that few can imagine. Carl Jung warned that the deeper you open yourself to the unconscious, the more shadows you will encounter. For the empath, this is not theory. It is daily life. Because the same openness that allows them to comfort and heal also makes them a target for those who feed on what they radiate. Think of it this way. A flame does not only warm. It also draws the moths. And the empath's aura, rare and luminous, becomes a beacon for both gratitude and hunger. Some are drawn to them because they finally feel seen. But others are drawn because they sense a source of energy to take. To the empath, this can feel like living with the door open that never closes. They cannot help but receive. And once received, they cannot help but carry. This is why so many empaths find themselves repeating the same painful pattern. They attract people in need, but they also attract people who take without giving. They become the confidant, the healer, the emotional shelter. And in return, they are often left empty, overlooked, or betrayed. Jung would say this is the price of being a vessel for the collective unconscious. What flows through them is not filtered, and so both light and shadow enter without resistance. But here lies the paradox. Even in the midst of this draining cycle, the aura grows stronger. Every wound etched into the empath deepens their resonance. They become both softer and heavier. Softer, because their compassion expands with each pain they survive. Heavier, because their presence carries layers of truth that others can feel without words. The empath does not realize it, but their aura becomes more unforgettable with every trial. And this is why Jung considered the path of the empath a kind of initiation. Not into comfort, but into transformation. To live this way is to be forged in fire. Each heartbreak, each betrayal, each moment of despair reshapes the empath's soul. They emerge altered, not harder, but more transparent, more luminous. They embody what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating both light and shadow. For the empath, individuation is not an abstract concept. It is survival. They must learn to hold what they feel without being consumed by it. They must learn to set boundaries, not to close themselves off, but to preserve their strength. Because without boundaries, their aura burns too fast. With boundaries, their aura becomes sustainable, a steady flame that continues to illuminate rather than collapse into ash. This is why solitude becomes sacred for the empath. Alone, they can release what is not theirs. Alone, they can hear the difference between their own soul and the echoes of others. Jung often spoke of the need to withdraw into the inner world, to confront the unconscious directly. For the empath, this withdrawal is not luxury, it is medicine. It is the only way to cleanse their aura from the fragments that cling to them day after day. And yet, despite the exhaustion, despite the pain, despite the loneliness that often comes with such sensitivity, the aura remains. People still notice. People still lean closer without knowing why. Even when the empath feels broken, they continue to radiate. Because their aura is not just a reflection of their mood, it is a reflection of their openness to life itself. Think about that. Most people walk through life armored, numb, disconnected from their own depths. But the empath remains open, even when it hurts. They feel more, they break more, but they also shine more. And that is why their aura feels so rare. Some will always misunderstand it. Some will always take advantage of it. But others, the ones who are ready, will be healed by it. They will carry with them the memory of how it felt to be truly seen, truly held, even if only for a moment. And this, Jung would argue, is where the empath's true power lies. Not in fixing others. Not in saving them. But simply in existing as a mirror of what is real. Their aura does not demand. It reveals. It makes people face themselves. Sometimes that is comforting. Sometimes it is terrifying. But it is always unforgettable. The empath's aura is therefore both burden and gift. It drains them, but it also defines them. It wounds them, but it also transforms them. It attracts darkness, but it also radiates light. And through it all, the empath becomes something more than an individual. They become a living channel of the collective soul, carrying fragments of the world within them, and returning them, purified, to those who cross their path. This is why Jung believed the true empath is so rare. Because their aura is not just the sum of their life, it is the sum of many. It is a fire fueled by both suffering and love. And it is this paradox, this luminous presence born of pain and openness, that makes their aura unlike anything else. There comes a moment in every empath's life when the weight becomes unbearable. It is the point where carrying the world inside them no longer feels like a gift, but a curse. They wake up drained, surrounded by people yet profoundly alone, haunted by feelings that do not belong to them. It is here that the empath faces the crossroads Carl Jung described as the call to individuation, the point where a person must either collapse into despair or rise into transformation. Most people will never reach this threshold. They never feel enough to be broken by it. But the empath does. And it is precisely because they reach this breaking point that something extraordinary can emerge. Jung believed that the unconscious has a strange way of forcing growth through suffering. He said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." For the empath, this truth is not philosophical, it is lived. To survive, the empath must begin a new kind of journey, the inner descent. They must stop being only an open vessel for others, and instead turn inward, to meet the vast depths within themselves. This is terrifying at first. Because inside, they do not just find love and compassion. They also find rage, sorrow, fear, emotions they have absorbed for years, lying dormant, waiting to be faced. Many empaths mistake these shadows as their own. They believe they are broken, weak, too fragile for the world. But Jung would say otherwise. He would remind them that the shadow is not the enemy, it is the teacher. In Jungian psychology, the shadow holds the parts of the self that have been repressed, denied, or ignored. For the empath, the shadow is swollen, because they carry not only their own wounds but the unspoken wounds of countless others. Facing this shadow feels like drowning. It is raw, overwhelming, almost unbearable. And yet, it is only here, inside the darkest waters, that the empath discovers their truest power. Because in the act of facing what they carry, something miraculous begins to happen. The empath starts to separate. What is mine? What belongs to others? What can I release? This process of differentiation is the heart of individuation. It is the act of reclaiming the self from the blur of everything else. And as the empath learns to draw these lines, their aura shifts. It becomes less of an open floodgate and more of a radiant force, still open, but no longer uncontrolled. Still compassionate, but no longer endlessly consumed. This transformation does not happen overnight. It often requires solitude, silence, and sometimes deep heartbreak. Many empaths are forced into this path by betrayal, when the people they gave everything to leave them empty. Others are pushed there by burnout, when their body collapses under the weight of carrying too much. Whatever the catalyst, the turning point is always the same, the realization that survival demands boundaries. Boundaries. A word that feels foreign to the empath, almost cruel. But Jung would argue that without boundaries, there can be no wholeness. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." For the empath, becoming who they truly are means learning that saying, "no," is not a betrayal of their gift, it is the only way their gift can last. With boundaries, the empath's aura changes. It no longer leaks endlessly. It begins to concentrate. It becomes stronger, denser, more magnetic. People still feel it, perhaps even more than before, but now it comes with a weight, a clarity. The empath who once bled for everyone becomes the empath who stands unshaken, a presence that heals not by absorbing, but by radiating. Their aura is no longer a sponge, it is a mirror. And that mirror shows others what they need to see, their own truth. This is why people who encounter a transformed empath often describe the experience as unforgettable. It is not because the empath said the perfect words or offered endless comfort. It is because, in their presence, something deeper happened. The aura itself spoke. It told the truth without needing words. It reminded people of who they could be. Some are drawn closer, seeking more of this rare light. Others are shaken, even threatened, because they are not ready to face themselves. Either way, the impact is permanent. Jung believed this is the essence of the archetype of the healer, the wounded one who transforms their suffering into power. The empath is not powerful because they avoid pain. They are powerful because they walk through it, again and again, and come out luminous. Their aura is forged in the fire of shadow work, of heartbreak, of survival. And that is why it is rare. Yet the journey does not end here. Because as the empath matures into their power, they face a new challenge: how to carry their aura in a world that misunderstands it. Society rewards noise, dominance, competition. The empath's quiet strength often goes unseen, undervalued. But Jung would argue that it is precisely this unseen power that shapes humanity most deeply. The true empath does not need a stage. Their aura itself is the work. Their presence is the medicine. And this medicine spreads in ways they may never witness, rippling through the lives they touch. Think of it. A single moment of being understood can change a life. A single look of recognition, a single act of genuine compassion, can alter the course of someone's inner world. The empath may never know the extent of their influence. But their aura lingers in others long after they part ways, like a scent in the air, like a warmth in the skin. That is the silent legacy they leave. And so, the empath who survives their own breaking point becomes something rare indeed. They are no longer just sensitive. They are no longer just open. They are whole. They carry within them both light and shadow, compassion and boundaries, softness and strength. Their aura is not fragile, it is indestructible. Jung would say this is the highest form of individuation, when a person integrates every part of themselves and stands as a complete being. For the empath, this completeness is not just personal, it is archetypal. They become a living example of the balance the world itself longs for: openness without collapse, strength without hardness, love without self-destruction. This is why the empath's aura is so unforgettable. It is not simply beauty. It is not simply kindness. It is truth, distilled through suffering, carried with grace. It is a reminder of what it means to be fully alive. And once you encounter it, you cannot forget it. The rare aura of the empath carries both beauty and weight, and the world often does not know how to hold it. To those who are ready for it, the aura feels like an anchor in a restless sea. But to others, it feels like an uncomfortable spotlight, a mirror that shows them more than they wanted to see. Carl Jung spent much of his life studying projection, the way humans unconsciously cast their hidden truths onto others. And he would have seen the empath's aura as the perfect stage for this phenomenon. The empath does not just walk into a room, they become a canvas. Onto them, people throw their desires, their wounds, their anger, their hopes. Without saying a word, the empath becomes the vessel for the secret lives of those around them. At first, this feels unbearable. The empath wonders why they attract such extremes of love and hostility, why people cling to them so tightly and then turn against them with equal force. But Jung would remind us that it has little to do with the empath themselves. What people see in them is not just who they are, it is what the other cannot yet face within themselves. This makes the empath both cherished and targeted. Cherished, because for those who are starving for kindness, their aura feels like oxygen. Targeted, because for those who fear their own shadow, the empath feels like a threat. And the empath feels this split inside their own body. They feel the warmth of being seen, and the sting of being resented, often in the very same day. Over time, this paradox creates a deep loneliness. The empath begins to wonder, does anyone truly see me, Or do they only see what they project onto me? Do they care for my soul, or only for the comfort I give them? It is a quiet, gnawing ache to know that your presence is valued, but not always for who you truly are. Jung spoke often of individuation, the process of becoming whole. And for the empath, individuation means something very particular. It means learning to stand in their aura not as a screen for projection, but as a sovereign presence. It means learning to say, I see your shadow, but I will not carry it for you. I feel your pain, but I will not drown in it. I hear your longing, but I am not here to complete what you have not yet faced in yourself. This is the hardest lesson for an empath. Because for so long, their identity has been tied to absorbing, helping, fixing. But Jung would argue that real healing does not come from taking another's burden onto yourself. Real healing comes from showing them, by your presence, that they are capable of carrying it themselves. And this shift is where the empath's aura begins to change. It no longer leaks energy in every direction, responding to every tug. Instead, it begins to stabilize. It becomes concentrated, firm yet luminous, still open, but no longer without boundaries. The empath becomes like a clear lake, deep, reflective, but not overflowing at every ripple. When this happens, the dynamics around them shift too. Those who once leaned on them excessively feel unsettled. They can no longer use the empath as a crutch. Some will grow angry, calling them cold or distant. Others will feel abandoned. But those who are ready to truly grow will notice something else. For the first time, the empath is not rescuing them, but showing them what it means to stand. And in this silent lesson lies real transformation. Jung often said that what we dislike in others is often what we have not faced in ourselves. In the empath's matured aura, this truth becomes unavoidable. Because when people meet them now, they see not a sponge for their pain, but a mirror for their truth. And mirrors are powerful things. Some are drawn to them, unable to resist the clarity. Others recoil, afraid of what stares back. For the empath, this can feel isolating at first. To no longer be endlessly needed is disorienting. But with time, it becomes liberating. Because now, they are not valued only for their giving, they are respected for their being. They discover that their worth does not depend on how much they absorb, but on the presence they carry. And this presence is rare. It is not a glow of constant sweetness, as the world imagines empaths to be. It is a steadiness, a quiet gravity, an authenticity that cannot be faked. People who encounter it often cannot explain what they feel, but they remember it. They remember the way their own heart felt lighter in that space. They remember the clarity of being seen, not through judgment, but through truth. Yet such a presence also comes with cost. In a society that rewards noise, competition, and self-promotion, the empath's quiet strength often goes unnoticed. They are not the loudest voice in the room. They do not demand attention. Their power is subtle, and subtle power is easy to overlook. But Jung would argue that it is precisely this quiet force that shapes humanity most deeply. It is not always the generals or kings who move the world, it is the healers, the seers, the ones who hold light and silence. The empath's aura works in the same way. It is not flashy. It does not dominate. But it lingers. Long after the conversation ends, long after the encounter is forgotten, the memory of their presence remains. The comfort they gave, the truth they reflected, the calm they carried, it echoes in the lives of those they touched. This is why, even when unrecognized, the empath's aura has immense value. It is not measured in applause, but in transformation. The stranger who found hope again. The friend who faced the truth they had avoided for years. The partner who finally saw their own shadow. The empath may never know the ripples they leave behind. But those ripples exist, spreading outward like circles on water, long after they are gone. And so the empath learns something vital. Their gift is not in being endlessly available, nor in absorbing every wound. Their gift is in the rare aura they carry, the kind that awakens what is hidden, the kind that both comforts and confronts, the kind that changes people in ways words never could. This is why their aura is so rare, because it is not merely about kindness. It is about truth. And truth, when carried with compassion, becomes the most healing force of all. The empath who has endured the storms of projection, betrayal, and exhaustion reaches a threshold few ever see. It is the moment when everything they have absorbed, everything they have carried, everything they have hidden within themselves, begins to crystallize into something that is no longer fragile, no longer reactive, no longer vulnerable in the way the world once believed. Carl Jung would call this the moment of true individuation, the emergence of a soul that is complete, integrated, and luminous in its authenticity. At this stage, the empath has learned what the world cannot teach them. They have learned that being open does not mean being endless. That compassion does not require surrender. That sensitivity is not weakness. And most importantly, they have learned to distinguish their own feelings from those of the countless lives they carry within. The rare aura that once poured out in all directions, leaving them drained, now pulses steadily, intentionally, a source of quiet gravity that commands attention without effort. It is here that the paradox of the empath's existence becomes most evident. They are still profoundly sensitive, still tuned to the currents of human emotion. But they are no longer swept away by them. Their aura does not vanish when darkness enters. It transforms darkness into understanding, pain into insight, chaos into clarity. Jung understood that the integration of shadow was the key to this transformation. The empath who faces their own internal storms, who navigates the depths of their own despair, emerges with a presence that cannot be mimicked, cannot be diminished, and cannot be ignored. This presence carries power unlike any other. People who encounter it feel an immediate shift. They are confronted with their own truths, reflected gently, uncompromisingly. Some are comforted, some are challenged, some are unsettled, but all are changed. The empath no longer heals by taking on the burdens of others. They heal by illuminating the path for others to face their own burdens, to see what has been hidden, to recognize the parts of themselves they have been afraid to name. And yet, this power is not meant to dominate. It is subtle. It does not scream or demand. It is the quiet strength of someone who has been broken, rebuilt, and polished by life itself. The empath's aura at this stage is not a reaction to the world. It is a testament to a journey inward, a declaration that they have stood in the fire of their own suffering and emerged whole. Jung would argue that this is the rarest form of human presence. To carry an aura that is both soft and unshakable, open yet protected, compassionate yet unwavering, is to become an archetype of the collective psyche. The empath now embodies the paradox of existence itself, strength born from vulnerability, light forged in shadow, love cultivated through boundaries. And as they walk through the world, the echoes of their journey ripple outward. People remember not just the acts they performed, but the way they made them feel seen, understood, and alive. Their aura touches not only those who are aware of it, but also those who encounter its subtle energy and never fully forget it. It is a living force that shapes environments, conversations, and hearts long after the empath has moved on. But the journey is ongoing. Even in this stage of mastery, the empath continues to face challenges. The world remains chaotic, demanding, and often blind to the rare power they carry. Yet, unlike before, they no longer rely on external validation. They stand in their own center, drawing energy from within, radiating a presence that is unshakable because it is self-sustained. Jung would call this alignment with the self, the realization that the only true source of stability is the psyche itself, integrated and whole. The empath now carries a dual legacy. One is visible, the comfort, the guidance, the illumination they offer to others. The other is invisible, the personal mastery, the unshakable equilibrium, the quiet fire that burns inside. Both are essential. Both are extraordinary. And both are impossible to replicate or take away. This is the rare aura in its fullest expression, a force that has been tempered, shaped, and refined through life, shadow, and consciousness. And here lies the ultimate lesson for those who resonate with the empath's journey. Their rarity is not a result of innate talent or natural advantage. It is the result of endurance. It is the result of confronting suffering, embracing vulnerability, and rising again and again with clarity and intention. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every moment of exhaustion has contributed to the formation of an aura that is impossible to ignore, unforgettable, and transformative. Carl Jung would remind us that the empath's path is a microcosm of the human journey. The challenges, the shadows, the moments of despair, they are all necessary steps toward wholeness. And the empath's aura is the visible sign of what integration looks like. It is the embodiment of what happens when one does not flee from suffering, but uses it as a tool to carve presence, purpose, and profound influence. In the end, the rare aura of the true empath is not about saving the world for others. It is about standing fully alive, fully present, fully whole. It is about carrying the weight of life with grace, reflecting truth with compassion, and offering others the mirror of their own potential. It is an invisible legacy that changes hearts, awakens minds, and reminds humanity that depth, sensitivity, and courage are not weaknesses. They are the rarest and most powerful form of presence the world can ever hold. And so, the empath walks forward, luminous, quiet, eternal in the way only those who have truly carried the world within themselves can be.